Welcome to Teching It Up with Mark. Today we're going to go over SmartForms very basics. So if you're new to SmartForms, this is a video for you. We're going to say what they are, how to build them, and some small key features, and go through a little bit of an example. Hope you enjoy. Thank you. So here I am in my K2 Designer. This is where we will actually build SmartForms, and we're just going to look at a running instance of a form. So here I have my employee study approval form. You see that name here in the URL. This is what we originally name it. And for SmartForms, they will all run in the K2 server in runtime form, and your particular SmartForm name here. This is the URL that you'll embed into any application where you wish to use SmartForms, or just send that to a URL. Now, looking at the form itself, we have several types of controls. And within the form itself, we have views. You can kind of see this section here that's a little bit grayer. It might be hard to see. And this is called a view. We can have several views within a form. And we could also, where we have many controls, we do this so we can reuse the views in different forms. So this helps with the reusability of SmartForms. And we also have some buttons and things on the form itself. Let's take a little bit of a deeper look at that. So here I have this employee study approval form with the runtime URL. This runtime URL, once again, it will be the actual URL the user uses, which opened me up to this page here. And when I expand here on the left, I could see the view or views that are being used within the form. So I have this little icon here. It's like a rectangle listing the view that I used. And within that, if I expand this, I can see the SmartObjects used within the form or the view, or at least a few of them. So if I go to edit this, this will bring me to the K2 SmartForm Designer. Here I have the ability to add any controls. And like I said before, I have the ability to add views to this form. So I could just drag that in. I could add multiple of the same view into the form as needed. Like this would be kind of funny. I could do that. Within forms and views, I have a few things I can control here. We have the layout. This is where I'll actually be adding the controls. We have a properties pane on the right here. So if I click on a control, it will give me options about that control, or sometimes that view too, or the form itself. So here, if I click on a button, I see some properties about the button, like the name, the internal name, and the text on the control itself, and some formatting properties. I see the same for views, if I want to make this visible or not visible. This would also be the same for other controls, such as tables, if I wanted to add that in for my organization. Or if I go to the form itself, I have several controls there too. Many to do with styling view. Okay, so let's go through first creating a view, since this will be the main point of your work, or main amount of your work, and then we'll go add that to a form. For this, let's see, we had a SmartObject tutorial, so I'm just going to create a new folder, new category, call this SmartForms. Very basics. And now we'll go to that. And I'll just do everything in this folder itself. Usually we divide that into several things. Now, in order to design a view, I will just go New View. And on the screen here, I can give it a name, description, category, just where it's actually staying within the designer, the view type, and a data source. So we have two view types here, an item, which is only to display things from a single row, usually, and a list view, which can display, for example, several records from a database. We also have a data source here that we can use to kind of help us develop things a little bit faster. So if we have this mapped to a particular SmartObjects, will have fields there from that smart object already for us. So I'm going to go ahead and create a smart object for us to use in this example. So I'm going to go new smart object. I wonder if you guys can hear the baby crying in the background. And we'll just call it Hello World Movies, I guess. And we'll make this just a SmartBox smart object. Here we'll have an ID for the particular record. We'll have user name, user display name, favorite movie. We'll do a drop down of favorite genre. Okay, click finish. So in the background, that created a table for us in the K2 database where we can store our data. That's versus hooking that up to a database or SQL or SharePoint or something like that. Now from here, I'm going to create design view. This will bring me back to this screen, but it just has this data source for me figure out there. So it doesn't matter how we get there. We could choose a different smart object here or clear this out if we wanted to. It's taking us to the same thing. So we'll give this a name of Hello World Movie. And we'll click create. When we click create, the first thing it will ask us here, if we want to create labels and controls. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll go 2 columns. We can change this all later. This is just to help us get started and move a little bit quicker. And I'm going to uncheck ID so that's not visible to the user. And we will not add any buttons automatically. Actually, we're going to do this 2 different ways. We're going to have the user display name that we have here. And we'll put in the controls for favorite movie and favorite genre manually. So I'll click OK here. We have user display name. If we want to, this automatically gave me a label control and a text box control here. And so with the properties already assigned, so this just saves us some time. We could add these things by ourselves if we wanted to. So this control here, a label, we just add a label to something. Those are 2 separate controls in K2. Then we have a text box. We have a table-like structure in these views in SmartForms. So here I only have 1 row and I need a few other ones for favorite movie and favorite genre. So I'm just going to use this insert row below and add these. Now I'm going to do this a couple of different ways. Since we associated this view with the smart object, we have some fields available for us. So in this toolbox, we have first this toolbox, then we have fields, then we have methods too. It can actually do some rules for us. What I'm going to do here is just take this, drag it over, and this will look the same. I'll also drag this over here, user display name, and favorite movie into its own box. Now, what it also did here, besides naming this text box for us, the internal name, it mapped this to a field, the field from the smart object when we move that over here. So we'll leave that as is. However, if we wanted to do this for favorite genre, and this was not done for us, this is what the process would look like. First, I would move a label over, and I'll have to put in the text myself. Favorite genre. And I'll put the internal name with label favorite genre so I know what that is. And then I would have to move a text box in myself too. So I'll put text box favorite genre in there. Text favorite genre. And we have no field associated here. I'm going to not add this for now, just so we could see what's going on with this. I'm also going to add a create button. So adding a row below. And for this create button, I'll use first this generic create button. Here is something associated for us already. A little bit of magic happened in the background there, and I'll go into that in a minute. First, I'm going to click finish. And I'm going to go to the runtime URL and take a look at this. Oh, look at this. I put this in the wrong area. Let me go back and fix that. Go edit on the text box. I put text there. Don't need that. That pre-filled it for us. We can change it. I'm going to click save here. Back to the tab where I have this open. This runtime view, not form. We would normally only use this view path for our own developing, like I am here. Okay. So before I use this, let's go to management and get ready to run this SmartObjects so we could see what's inside. You can look at my SmartObject video if you want some more information about that. But I'm clicking on this in management, and I'm just going to run the list view to show for sure that this is an empty database. There should be nothing there, no items to display. And after I click create, I'm also going to open up F12 browser tools here too, so we can actually see something going on. I'm going to go to network. We don't see any requests yet. I'm going to click create. We see an AJAX call. We don't see anything in the form, so for the end user, that wouldn't be enough. And now if I go back here, run this list method again, I see something in there with absolutely nothing in it. Did I have anything in here? No, I didn't. Let's put some data into here. Mark, favorite movie. So predictable, right? Back to the Future. Or create. I see another AJAX call here. Now if I go back to my list, I see another item in there, what I put in there. So that's actually stored in the database now. Also, if I look at this AJAX call, all right. Oh, always click that too much. If I look at the payload here, I can find the things that I put in. Back to the Future, user display name Mark. Hopefully this isn't super tiny. You can actually see this. I don't think blowing it up is gonna, oh, good. Yes, it did help. We see the fields that I have there. Okay, great. Oh, actually, yeah. We had something, although I put something in for favorite genre horror, I could see that this came across as clear here. And I also did not see something here in favorite genre. So to fix that, I'm going to look at the other controls. There I have a field map. Like favorite movie is mapped, text box is mapped to the SmartObject field. And user display name is also mapped to the SmartObject field. However, the control that I added isn't. I just have to put that in here. So this one is mapped favorite movie text box is mapped to favorite movie field. Genre was not mapped to anything, so that's why I didn't see it there. Now this whole concept of a smart object in the background, I find a little bit confusing, so I'll save that here, but it's a smart object that we have there. We can't actually see the properties that are in there through normal means, but luckily I got a script that does this for me. So I'm going to run the script, and here I see this is a little bit confusing. Oh, let's refresh this whole page first. And I'm going to run the script, and I can see what actually is in my smart object in the background. So I only see 3 properties here. I was actually expecting to see a 4th one too. And now I'm going to add something. I'm going to say Mark for a username. Click off it, and now I'm going to run this script again because it's not smart enough to detect changes. Now I see that we have a value of Mark here for that instead of just cleared or nothing in it. So that's what we're doing when we're mapping this. We always have the smart object in the background where this is hidden and stored for us and is referring to the values there. So let's take a little bit of a look at this create method. We know that when we click this method, we are running a web service call here, which actually creates something in the server. So it looks like a smart object. We'll take a deep dive into that. So what happened when we actually added this this method or button for us? Well, there's two ways we can view that. When we click on here, we can go from this button to rules, or we can go, which shows the rules for this particular control, or we can go to the rules here. Rules are the business logic that executes on events on the form. So let's double click this rule and try to take a look at what I mean by what a rule is. A rule can have three parts. Not all are always required. The first thing is an event. So when something happens on the form, when the form is loaded, when a button is clicked, when a text box is changed, when a drop-down list is changed, those are the usual ones that we have here. Conditions, any if statements that we have to want to add to this. So if a control contains a value, if there's a parameter in the form, if the username equals blah, 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 whatever we want there. And then we have actions, what's actually going to happen here. So in this case, we are executing a method on the view. And the method choices we had here, there's a few standard ones. Clear and collapse everything on the view. Expand the view, initialize, initialized. And we have a few of these little green ones here. Let's see how this blows up. For a smart object that indicates that's something from the smart object that we associated with the view. And in this case, it's the create method that we use. So when the create button is clicked, we have no conditions. We are always going to create a method, an item, or use this create method. In the configuration here, we'll put in an input. Now this auto map things for us, but what it's actually taking here is from the text box that we have here, the values that we need. We could also take this, since all these controls are mapped to a particular smart object, we won't see that here, directly from this smart object here. So here we can see these hidden smart object values that are there. It's annoying that we can't see these while debugging a little bit easier. So we put in what we have in the controls, and for the output mapping, we have an ID that came back. Let's see if we see that in our Ajax call. I'm actually not sure if this will work or not. Yes, we do. So now after I executed this, I see the property for ID here. Funny that it's not there to start from, but that's probably something wrong with my script. And I see the number 3 that came back. So I could see how that smart object was changed in the background and it's being stored there. So we'll click finish and we'll click OK here. Now there is a rule that I would like to add, and this is what I add for standard to views when I'm actually doing them for real. So we'll go through the process of adding a rule or business logic to this view. Now note that we're still just making a view here, and this will be something that's used on a form generally. We still haven't added this view to a form. So what I'll do here, I'm going to add a rule. We'll often find this rule is automatically there for us. But in this case, it's not yet, so I'm just going to go add it. When a view executes a method, some of these events are a little bit hidden in here too. So it's good to actually go through these, but a lot of them are when a view executes a method or a control raises an event are typically what you're going to use. When the view executes initialize, so this is the first rule that runs within the form itself once the web page has returned to the user. It's a little bit confusing there, but typically this is going to be the first thing that runs on the view. I'm going to add a condition, but first I need to add some other things that I forgot. So we're just going to leave this as is. It's going to force me to put something into this rule. Actually, we'll come back and do this in a bit. So the first thing I want to do is add a parameter, and I'm going to call this ID, representing the ID in the database that we're going to use to identify this. And it doesn't matter, text or number, it's kind of forgiving. I'll make this as number since I'm doing this in a video. Normally I wouldn't be so formal about it. I would just keep it as text. All right, now I'm going to go add my rule again. These buttons are the same. When a view executes a method, initialize. So when we're first opening the form, if there's a parameter, so I'm going to search for parameter or param. If a view parameter has been specified, so this is a query string parameter, a URL query string parameter, and there's only one there, so it chooses that. If it does have an ID, then I'm going to execute another method on the view. So a SmartObject method. I could do the same thing with execute a SmartObject and find this SmartObject, but the mapping is just quicker here. It just, since I put this in the general tab for this SmartObject, I have that. I'm going to press load, configure that. We have the input. So this would be the same as if I use this load method. What I want to put here is whatever, number 3 from the database, and I get back those fields. It looks like I don't have much there. Maybe I had more than 2. Yep. And more there. Oh. So I'll take whatever's in this parameter, in this case here, as the input for this method, and the output, which is here on the right side, the output for that method are these things here. Now I can go auto map. Didn't do such a good job actually, but this will automatically map to the SmartObject too because it's in those fields. I'll just leave that as is by default because as little changes possible is always better. I'll clear the script. I'm going to refresh. Okay, nothing happened. That's because there is no query string parameter here. So I'm going to use a query string parameter ID equals 3. We see that it got back the one with my name. We see an AJAX call doing the same thing here. So somewhere in the properties, I see the value of 3 there. And if I run the SmartObject again, see what's in the SmartObject in the background, we actually see the same things there. So we have the ID also in the SmartObject. Let me see, did I create another one that was more interesting? Or do I just have those 3 items now? Looks like just those 3. So if I did this for element 2, I would get the same thing. I see what I have there, and and I see what's in my SmartObject itself. Good. So that's the very, very basics of a view. That was some rules, so the business logic. This gets much more complicated. Maybe I'll do another video on the logic there, but we still need a form. We don't want to send this ugly thing out to a user. Looks like it's from 1995. So what I'll do is right click somewhere and say new form. Now this form title will be used in the URL, but you know what I'm going with anyways. Hello world movie. And I'll click create. Here I have an empty form, so I could add controls. You can see that this menu looks a little bit different here. I have views that I can add, and this is just to help me select things here. But I can add controls. So first I'm going to add a label, just to add something here. And I'll call this label title, Hello World Movie. The style I could set here, so this will be different CSS that's applied to it. And we'll put page title there. Save that. So that's something we could do in the properties of a control. We haven't worked with that much. And I want to find my views next. I'm going to take this views from this Hello World Movie, and I'm going to put it on there. Wow. And I'm going to save. And now, if I click finish, if I go to runtime URL, I can see my form. And all the same things are happening. Now you can see that style is actually done on the form itself. We still also don't have any feedback to the user when they click create. So let's just do a couple of UI improvements here. So first thing I want to do is make this not so ugly. There's a couple ways we can do this. We can set the theme. So that was leaf. The nicer ones are usually blue void or gray void. The other ones look quite old. Let's go to gray void. If I save this, I'm getting quite bored of it too. I could see that looks a teeny bit more modern. We also have the ability to add these style profiles now to this. So if I use this cola style profile, you could see something that it did custom. This also involves taking off this legacy theme. So if I save that and run it, okay, good. I just had a little bit of a hiccup in my system. I could see that it's got some text box that don't really look too nice. Let's just make this, take this collapsible off, but I could see the view, and let's set a maximum width. I'm doing this a lot. I think it's helps a bit. Try that at 1,000. Okay, maybe a little bit better. Still lots of room for improvement. What I also want to do though is just give some kind of feedback to the user. So let's add another rule there. So I'm creating blank things, which obviously doesn't make sense every time I click create. And I'm also not given a message or anything. See all these blanks I created for that. Let's just finish that up and make that a little bit nicer. So I'm going to do this a little bit against our best practices, but this is just to demo the capabilities of rules and the idea of inheriting rules. So I added this view to the form, and when I added it, I automatically get the rules for it. So I get some on the form level itself in case I added controls there, but I also see the ones on the view. So I have this create button is clicked from before. I see this. I could disable it, but I can't modify it. What I want to do though is add some validation. So I can't just click OK without putting anything in there. So the condition I'm looking for, this is kind of a special one, and I did a video on this too. I'm actually getting pretty good at this, huh? If the form passes validation. Let's see. So I'm adding this if there's a value in all fields, then we can continue to create. Just click OK, keep that nice and simple. And also, we're going to do something else. When the create button has been clicked, we're going to give a message. Search for message in the action, and this will just show a message box. So this will be, we'll make this confirmation. Your movie preference was submitted. And by default, I usually add the ID here. So I can get this from the variables on the right. So this context browser kind of switches from when it's input or output. But we're saving that in the parameter. No, we're actually not saving that in the parameter. So I'll get that from the SmartObject and just put that ID there, usually in brackets or something like this. Okay, so I save this. I need to check it in so other users can see these differences. So I would be able to see these myself, but not other users. And we'll rerun this. All right. So if I click create, these are red. Get some message that a value is required. Tim, Jaws, romance. Okay, click create. I get the ID back. The this was created. If I go open the browser now, I should see that this ID is also there within the SmartObject. That's how I was able to see it. Oh, this keeps on freezing on me. A bit annoying. Hopefully you have a better work environment than I do. Okay, good, beautiful. My script is loaded. I see the ID in there. I see everything in there. So the SmartObject in the background. Hey, look at the buttons there changed too. I wasn't expecting that. And I have a message. Usually we would redirect the user using another rule, navigate to another form, but that's adequate for now. So that is some very basics of SmartForms. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day. Thank you.